It is about 8 o'clock at night here on a Tuesday. I've gathered all my lamps around me to try and make it look like it's not 8 o'clock at night. My name is Anna. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, if you haven't been around or seen the past couple of videos, I am embarking on a writing endeavor. And this vlog is the end of that endeavor. So if you haven't seen my first two videos where I am testing out this Reedsy writing course, I highly suggest you go watch those first and then come back because we are going to be finishing up the course here in this video. We're now in fall. We're in a whole new season. I'm here in a sweater vest even though it's still 75 degrees in my house. The last time you saw me, I think, was probably early August, if I remember right. So number one, I got to about 20,000 words in the manuscript. I kept working on it over July and August. But once I hit 20K in that book, I kind of realized a couple things, mainly that I just needed to pause and figure a lot of things out. I had done a lot of discovery writing in that first 20K, and it taught me a lot about my story and my world and my characters. And hopefully any other discovery writers out there will relate. But sometimes you just have to get into the book and start writing in order to figure a lot of these things out. And so I got about 20K in. I got to somewhere after the break into 2, but not quite hitting the midpoint. This book is feeling pretty short. I mentioned that a lot in my other vlogs. I just started to feel like I didn't have a good grasp on the order of events. And I wanted to take a step back and rethink my outline. So that's what I did. I took some time off of drafting and just worked on my outline for a little while in August and kind of rethought what order things needed to happen in. There were some reveals of information that I felt like probably needed to be moved up a lot sooner. And it's so hard to explain without giving things away. But I'm really glad that I stopped and worked on the outline. And once I finished that reworking of the outline, I actually went back and started the draft over again and started writing it again from the beginning. I've saved a lot of that original work that I did, but I've also expanded a lot. I've cut a lot, I've added a lot, and just fleshed it out a lot more and really taking my time with these scenes. It kind of feels like this is a new style of drafting for me where I'm gonna headlights right up to a point, figure some stuff out, and then go back and see what works, what I want to take from that experience, what I want to shift around, and then move ahead, cement some things, then discovery write a little further, then maybe go back. You know what I mean? I'm trying hard to explain it. It feels like I'm sending the first version of myself down the path with a flashlight to see what's down there. And then she's going to report back. And then I will write a more careful path through the story. I don't know if that makes any sense. What I'm trying to say is I feel like I did a nice zero draft of the first third of the book to figure out a lot of things, and now I feel like I'm doing the first draft. Once again, we wrote 20K into the manuscript, did a lot of outline work, started over, and we're now about 13K into my second version of Hera's book. I just wanted to really be honest about where I am, how I'm progressing. I'm having so much fun writing this book, even though it's not the high word count that I was hoping for, but I really feel like I have a better draft on my hands than if I had just plowed forward and continued doing that really messy, wibbly wobbly plot that I had the first go around. So I have no regrets, and I'm having so much more fun now that I know a little bit more what I'm doing. So as far as coursework, it has continued to be a lot. To be honest right now, am catching up on a lot of coursework that I just fell behind on in August. But I'm determined to catch up this week and get on track so that the next 2 weeks I am only having to do one video per day. The videos are still really, really excellent and I get a lot out of them, but it's definitely much nicer to take them one at a time and really give them the individual focus that they deserve. So this week, our theme is plot skills 2. So this is our second plot skills week. I need to watch yesterday's video on foreshadowing and today's video on group scenes. I've made so much progress on Hera's book in addition to just keeping up with the course, and so I'm very happy with that. We have caught up. It's Tuesday night. As I said, I have 2 videos to watch. And I should honestly do some writing. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Let's start the last final weeks of this course. All right, let's go.
In this week's sessions, we're going to look at some additional ways that you can sharpen your plots and your stories. We're going to begin by looking at the topic of foreshadowing. Now, what do we mean when we talk about foreshadowing? Well, essentially, this is where you're using the earlier material to drop in some sense of warning or hint of foreboding about what is to come in the text.
So I've already eaten my dinner and I watched one of the author interviews. It was interesting because the author that was on was a debut author, but he actually sold his fiction book on proposal, which happens a lot for established writers, but probably is very rare for debut authors. He had 2 books with his agent die on sub. Oh, can't even imagine. However, there was an editor who just really liked his writing, but just couldn't buy those particular books for whatever reason. And so the editor just straight up asked him for a list of all of his other ideas and they developed a pitch together. And I've never heard of that. And I'm sure it doesn't happen very frequently at all, but it just goes to show that everybody's path, even in traditional publishing, can be so different and varied and hard to replicate. I haven't written since late last week. I meant to pick it up at some point over the weekend, but hi, I have a kitty cat friend. We're cat sitting again. I meant to write at some point over the weekend, but Luke and I were celebrating our wedding anniversary. I really didn't pick up the laptop at all very much, which is fine. But it's time to get back into it. So I left off with the manuscript at 15,687. I'm second guessing the tense quite a lot. It's I'm writing it in first person present tense, which I don't usually write in, and I feel like that's an expectation of the genre of fantasy romance, but I'm not loving it. And I can't tell if it's just me struggling to detach from my Project Gemstone voice, which was an omniscient past third. And that narration, that narrative style came so naturally to me. And I'm just struggling to find what the narration of this book feels like. It's been a long time since I've written in first person, and yeah, I'm feeling the kind of urge to switch, at least into past tense and do a first person past tense and see if I like that better. But I can't tell if I'm just running from the awkwardness of the first draft, you know? Like, it's hard to tell. I'm sure if I went back into my first drafts of Project Gemstone, they would also have this lilted, robotic, repetitive sentence structure, unimaginative sentences kind of thing that I feel like it's just plaguing me right now. Like I feel like everything I write starts with I this, I verb, like all the time. And it's just, I'm finding it hard to break out of that. I'm kind of accidentally leaving out a lot of description that I feel like I do have a little bit of description in my zero drafts. So I don't know why I'm really struggling to get description in with this first person present. It's just hard to naturally weave it in, I guess, when you're so immediately focused on what your character is seeing and doing. Then, like, remarking on the setting feels kind of like odd and strange in a way that it doesn't feel when I'm writing omnisciently. But I don't know. I'm kind of warring back and forth with myself on it. This next scene that I'm working on, I have a version of it from my prior round that I wrote in first person present. And I think tonight I'm going to do a little experiment and write it first person past. See what I think. I don't have to commit to anything, I don't have to go changing everything, but I want to see if that makes the words come a little more naturally. I want to see if that helps me find my footing as far as a narrative voice. We are almost back up to the point of how far I got last time before I started over. So that's exciting. This week was an interesting mix because, on the one hand, I had a really hard work week, to be very honest, and I was in survival mode for the past few days. Whenever I'm not at work, my brain is still thinking about work, and I'm thinking about work when I'm sleeping, and I'm thinking about work first thing when I open my eyes. And it's kind of like, even when I'm forcibly trying to think about other things, it's invading all of my brain space. And I'm just really sad right now, to be completely honest. It's a funk that I've been in for almost the whole year, I feel like, where I'm just really struggling to contain these feelings about work and not let them spill over into the rest of my life. And I'm not succeeding so far. um, so this week was hard, and I did a lot of doom scrolling because I'm just in that freeze mode and I have no energy for anything else, for taking care of myself, for doing anything that would help my mental health. And we also had the hurricane this week. For us, it took a turn in a different direction, so the impacts that we were expecting were quite a lot less. But the end of the week was quite stressful. Watching forecasts, worrying about our house, staying up late Thursday because we were going to get hit in the wee hours of the morning. And that just added a lot of stress, but it's neither here nor there. I want to try and pick up the pieces a little bit today. Today is a day that finally feels like fall. Like when we walked outside, the air was damp and cool, and it made me feel like if I closed my eyes, I could pretend I was in New England, where I'm from. And so that gave me a really great fall feeling. I've made a pumpkin Earl Grey, and I want to try and just get some good vibes going today, even if I don't really feel it in my heart. I am going to try and fake it till I make it. The good thing that happened this week was I finished Act 1, and I didn't even really realize I was approaching that point. I was just head down writing. And it wasn't until I went and looked at my outline to be like, okay, what's the next scene that I'm about to start? And I realized I had finished Act 1 and I hadn't even been paying attention. So that felt great. I'm really pleased with the place where Act 1 ends now. It feels very definitive. It feels like a true break into 2, where there is that moment of change. I'm really pleased with all the work I did on Act 1 to make sure that that was solid. I'm really pleased about where the book stands. It's just getting me out of my work funk to have any sort of creative spirit right now. I do have some catching up to do for Reedsy today. I know that we had probably a live session on Friday that I need to go back and look at. So we will do that today, catch up on, I think I have like 1 or 2 videos from Thursday, Friday, the hurricane days. So yeah, I think we have a couple of things to finish up for the doubling up week. And then we will do some writing in Act 2.
Who needs a scratching post?
Yeah, seriously. I was gonna say happy bare minimum Monday, but I feel like I've done much more than the bare minimum today, to be honest. We crushed a lot of emails at work today. I got a workout in and folded some towels after dinner today. So I feel like, you know what? This Monday has not been a bare minimum Monday. But the thing that I have not done yet is write. I made solid progress on my break into 2 last night, and I'm very excited for this next scene that I'm writing because it is the scene where everything that's wrong crystallizes for my character. And she's had a lot of like subconscious inklings that things are not as they seem. And this is the scene where everything comes crashing down. And she finally sees the fact that she has been misled. Ruh-roh. I'm excited for her to finally have that information and see her reaction to that information, see what she does with it, how she pivots. I obviously know that already, but I'm excited to write it. And yeah, everything is going to change after this scene. The whole book is going to feel different, and the momentum is going to be hopefully going straight up. So, I'm having a lot of fun with the writing, if you couldn't tell. Work continues to be hard, but I think I've talked on the channel before about how, like, for me, writing during hard times is either a very helpful escape because it's something that I alone control, or it's something that I just need to put down and come back to when I have creative spirit again. And for this week, at least, it's feeling like a nice escape. We're on our last week of the course. This week is all about endings and resolutions. And I really enjoyed the resolution lesson that I learned this morning. I definitely pulled out some bullet points and added them to like my Notion like resources roundup that I've started making out of all my coursework. Maybe by the end of this week, we will get to the midpoint, and then I can say that I have come out with half of a book done. And that would be very exciting because I did not expect to write another book from scratch this year. So I'd be very excited to say that I had half of a draft done and perhaps could finish it by the end of 2024. We'll see. We'll see.
Feedback. And this is a kind of cool way to end it, but I don't feel we've really had the most out of it. We could. But when you say have the most out of it, do you mean it's not resolved enough? Well, it was an unresolved thing.
It is such a glorious, beautiful, sunny Saturday, and I'm so happy to not be at work right now. We had a great Saturday morning on the Lazy Gang stream with Malin. I got a ton of writing done. Finally finished that scene that I've kind of been working on all week, to be honest, and it was just like feeling like the never-ending scene. I'm gonna go to the store and get a bunch of fun fall flowers. I want to go get some mums for the porch, maybe buy a pumpkin, and even though it's like probably still 80 degrees out, I'm gonna pretend that we're having a fun fall autumn time. Let's go do that. This car. I am rapidly losing light because it's about 7 o'clock, but we are going on a little field trip. I am going to go head out to Barnes & Noble. Today is a DASM day. Today is the release day for our friend Wallis, A Dark and Secret Magic is out, and I want to go see if I can grab a copy. I ordered the special edition, but I have too much FOMO. I want to go see if I can get the regular edition as well. And while we're there, I have my laptop, so we'll get some work done. I only have one more day of the Reedsy course, you guys. Tomorrow is day 101. And I could wait to watch my last lesson tomorrow, or I can watch it tonight. And I think it would just be really fun to be somewhere else and get out of the house a little bit and celebrate that we're coming to the end of this long journey. Oh my God, feels like July was just yesterday. But anyway, before we lose any further light, let's go. It's been about a week since the course wrapped up, and I've taken some time off to rest and recuperate and just take a deep breath after the course ended, honestly. But we have a lot to catch up on. I want to wrap up my whole course experience. So I actually nerded out and made a little bit of a PowerPoint for us to go over. Please step into my office. We're going to jump into StreamYard to help editing Anna out a little bit. But anyway, let's check. Welcome to Professor Anna's slideshow. So first off, I think it's helpful to define what I want out of a writing course. If I, had been in the market for a course and I had been doing my research, here are the things that I would have been looking for. In my humble opinion, what makes a good writing course? A, helps you to practice routine, so it gives you some accountability, some practice breaking down a goal into measurable steps. Second, and probably most importantly, I think it connects you with other writers. So I'm very blessed in that I feel like I have a great writing community. I have writing friends that I can lean on that I can commiserate with, that I can share work with, that I would consider my critique partners. But it wasn't always the case. And I remember like 5 years ago feeling like it was going to be really hard to get myself into a community like that and to find my people. And so I think it's really important for courses to put writers together and help them start making their network of writer friends. Because I feel like that is when I really started leveling up, is when I started collaborating with other writers. Third, practice workshopping. So, definitely looking for exposure to reading each other's works and practice giving and getting feedback. Because if you've never done that before, it's really a great thing to get exposure to. And I think developing that skill of how to relay feedback to someone in a kind, supportive, and compassionate, imaginative way is really important because then those people will want to keep working with you and you will learn from every project that you work on for someone else. Fourth, access to expertise. So let's be real, I feel like this is where the bulk of the price tag comes in, whether you're paying for a course online or actually through a university. That is what gives them the credibility, right? So whoever is leading your course should be trustworthy, should have great work history, should have some published works for you to check out. And hopefully they're publishing recently and, they're not just relying on publishing experience that is now 20 years outdated. This is your chance to ask your questions of an expert. Last, exposure to books. This obviously you can do by yourself, but I think it's really cool to have someone else pick out reading lists for you. I know no one liked that in high school, but I really enjoy getting told to read things because they're things I never would pick up on my own. And so I think it's really interesting to hear how other writers think about other books because I have tunnel vision. I have fantasy tunnel vision. And, it might be rare for me to pick up a book that's non fantasy. But I'm so glad every time that I do. Hopefully, that gives you a framework for what I really wanted out of this course and would want out of any course that I was taking. And to be honest, I really feel like Reedsy checked these boxes. Definitely would give you exposure to practicing a writing routine and meeting a goal, connecting you with a ton of writers that you could keep in touch with and form writing circles with, and who you know are committed as well at the same level that you are. And that's kind of the one thing that can be tricky. So we all had the opportunity every week to submit work for workshop and we would pair up and you could critique each other's works every weekend, and so there was ample opportunity for that. I thought Tom was a really excellent person to lead this course. He has great experience both as a writer and as a publishing professional, and so that mix, I think, was really exciting for me, and he was very accessible to us in our like circle community. We could just ask questions and, he was very responsive, and so um I thought that was excellent. And the exposure to the books, obviously, that is kind of like the bulk of the course is taught through excerpts. They were really different from things I would have picked up off the shelf. And they were, for the most part, very, very contemporary. And that was so different from my college experience where we were reading like Raymond Carver, you know what I mean? So I really appreciated these contemporary examples of what is working in books today. So let's take a moment. Everybody take a deep breath. We're going to talk about the cost. And I said at the beginning when I started this whole adventure that I wanted to kind of go back and compare this experience against my college writing experience because I think that's kind of the fairest comparison I could make. So I did go back and look it up, and you can see the comparison here. So to take the Reedsy course, which is a 101-day course, it is $12.49, or with my discount code or anyone else's, it takes it down to $11.29. Compared with the cost if I was to take one fiction workshop class at my university, That would be a 3 credit hour class, and today it would cost $919. So it's pretty comparable. And especially when you think about the fact that that $919 is one class. It's Fiction 201. Like, I specifically have been thinking about my Fiction 201 class as I'm making these notes. Whereas the Reedsy course, I think, covered a much broader breadth of topics and aspects of craft than I think we probably had time to do in just that one semester class, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's hard to make that comparison, but I hope that helps to kind of view it through the lens of a formal course. And at the end of the day, I cannot determine value for anybody other than myself. What you think is worth it to you is different to someone else. And so it's up to your experience as a writer up to this point, and of course on your wallet. So take this for what you will, but in my mind, I think the level of content was comparable, if not more expansive than a Fiction 201 class. And it's interesting that the cost came out pretty comparable. On that note, I will just quickly break down everything that you would get between either the Reedsy course or that college course that I took from what I can remember. And a lot of this you will already remember from seeing my videos, but I'll go through it all just one more time. So, if you're taking the Reedsy course, we have author interviews and panel discussions, live line editing workshops by a pro, critique partner swaps, like I said, writing prompt exercises every day, access to an online writing group, and daily craft video lessons with a ton of novel excerpts and extracts to study. And I feel like this really lines up with what you would get out of the college course that I was thinking of. So, first of all, that's joining a cohort of other writers, weekly workshops with critiques by your peers and by a professor, assigned 4 to 5 novels to read over the course of the semester, and we probably did like 1 to 2 craft lessons per week. I think in my class we did like Tuesdays was like lesson day and Thursdays was workshop day where we would just read each other's work. So, when I really break it down, I feel like a lot of what was covered in the college course is also covered in the Reedsy course, and perhaps even in more depth. Next, I want to quickly go over my highlights. So, these are the things that I really loved about the course. These were my favorite parts. This is what I'm like, woo, yeah, so excited about. And first off, that was the prep sessions. This was such a great way to start off the course. So I think I only talked about these very briefly in the beginning of my first video, but this is a series of videos that you get in the week before the course to help you get ready to write your novel. And if you want to see like a more in-depth look at these videos, then my friend Malin did a video on just that. But essentially, they are the 5 Ps as you see here: the pitch, the protagonist, the plot, point of view, and place. And basically, it's just asking you to sit down and think about these things in detail before you start writing. And wow, I wish so badly that this had been a part of my writing education because it forces you to boil down what is the story I'm trying to tell and what is important to me about it. And, taking that time to think about my character. Why are they the way that they are? What do I feel like I need to know about them before I can start writing? I will definitely be using this for any draft that I start from scratch in the future. They're very quick, very easy. I didn't spend a lot of time on this, but it made me feel so much better about the fact that I was about to start a new draft. The next highlight that I really, really loved, this was the live editing sessions by Tom. So every couple of weeks, Tom would look at excerpts of our work that we submitted, and we would all watch him line edit, usually about like 800 to 1,000 words. First of all, everyone was so creative, So impressive. I loved the broad diversity of projects that everyone was bringing, and I wanted to keep reading several of them. But it was really great to see this from Tom's perspective because he has that professional ghostwriting experience and professional acquisitions experience. So, looking at the first 2 pages of a novel and saying, do I want to pick this up? Do I want to ask for the full manuscript? Like that sort of thing. So I learned a lot about line editing through these sessions, and I'm so excited that I still have access to the writing community for, I think, the next 9 months. So I can keep attending these sessions, which I'm so grateful for. They were great. I kind of ended up talking about this already, but I just really liked the book selections. I loved that they were recent. I love that they were very contemporary. And I added a ton of them to my TBR. um, I really enjoyed the picks. In the spirit of giving and taking critique, I'll offer just 2 things that I thought could be a smidge better. The first thing being I found the course material to be really kind of heavy on prose level skills and maybe just a little bit lacking on novel structure. And I was really hoping to see those 2 things be balanced or even more heavily weighted towards structure. A lot of craft level, line level stuff in here that is really excellent and I certainly will be using in the future. But for the new writer that this is marketed towards, who's trying to figure out how to get to the end of a huge project like this, how do I approach the monster that is writing a novel? And I really wanted a little bit more of structure. Maybe that means spending a little bit more time on beat sheets. They were talked about a little bit. Um, I think the midpoint was talked about very well. Taking myself back to my college days, I did not get any education on how to structure a novel. And I would have loved some help with that. For example, this is like a list of our weekly topics. This isn't all of them, this is just a chunk of them as an example. And I kind of highlighted in blue the ones that I considered really helpful in the way of structure and thinking about plot. And as you can see, there's quite a lot in there that's really more like writing technique and probably like a draft 3, 4, 5 sort of thing. And so that made me wonder, like, maybe in the future, these could be broken into modules. Maybe the modules can be purchased individually, and then the writer can make that decision about what they need the most help with. Because I did find the order of things a little strange as well. Like, sometimes we're talking about, plot and structure, and then we're going back and talking about imagery and things that are quite line level. And just the zoom level was a little back and forth for me. And if you're starting with a like brand new writer who's trying to like build this house from the ground up, you're going from talking about foundations to paint colors and nail finishes. And then you're going to talk about like cementing the driveway. And then you're going to talk about picture frames. And so I think that metaphor is a little wonky, but hopefully you get what I mean. I did find there to be like a little bit of an over reliance on the excerpts from the novels. So every lesson, he will go through a paragraph or 2 from each of those books. So in one video lesson, we're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, for example. It becomes a little bit of a fire hose, especially if you're catching up and you have like 3 lessons to watch that day. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, it's a bit of a text avalanche. And so I would have loved to see the style of the videos broken up a little bit more. Like, I think this is really useful, but maybe one video a week could have been more practical instead of passive. So, like, there were a couple lessons, like this one, where it was a little bit more of using that novel and looking at it at a broad zoom out level and looking at these plot level links in between. I think this lesson was on causal links. And I think this is really helpful. This is like the more of the structure stuff that I wanted to see. And I enjoyed this lesson quite a lot for that reason, but it was rare to be taking that zoomed out look. And it was much, much, much more common to be just doing the excerpts. And so for that reason, the course really favors scene level writing and line level writing because we're just looking at scenes. And so looking at scenes means that we lack that zoom out perspective. So I would have loved to see a lot more like outline type of stuff where Tom is breaking down an outline of a book and to kind of help us understand why the writer made the decisions they made on an outline level, and to even examine like outline A versus outline B. What does this accomplish that this doesn't? How would you reorder it? And here are the pinch points, here are the turning points, here are the reaction points, and really like dig in to structure in that way. I think there's still a way to do it using examples that aren't always zoomed all the way in on scenes because then I think we lack a lot of the structure stuff. But anyway, I'm really just repeating myself at this point. I'm just very self-conscious. So at the end of the day, who is it for? I think this course would be excellent for anyone who is new to writing craft, maybe picking up writing as a new hobby. They've never picked up the pen, and the act of putting words together is a little mysterious because it has so much writing technique in it. For example, I pulled out these lessons here. It goes over things like scene versus summary, varying up your sentence lengths and capturing rhythm in your writing, caring for a character versus liking a character. These sort of like writing basics that a lot of us will be familiar with, but are so essential to someone who is approaching writing for the first time. And that's not to say that I didn't get a lot out of this as a intermediate writer, I suppose. I absolutely did. It is so helpful to be reminded of these writing techniques because I've spent so long in the like draft 1, 2, 3 trenches. I definitely feel rusty when it comes to my line level technique. And so I actually learned a lot from this course. It brought up a lot of really good lessons, and I have crafted a like checklist for myself of all the things that I want to look at when I'm line editing, and that checklist came directly out of the lessons that I took on the course. Who else is it for? I think absolutely it is for people who have time in your schedule. So I think if you're thinking about taking the course, definitely think carefully about where you're going to fit in this amount of work because it is a lot. You get a ton out of this course, and it really will be the most advantageous to those who can put the most time into it. There's a lot of things that this course offered that I didn't get to take advantage of because of time. um, so, we already talked about this, but again, as a reminder, you have like readings to do every day. You have your writing to do every day. You have further readings and resources to go link out and take a look at. There are all the live sessions, all the pre recorded sessions. It's a lot. Best probably for people who have a little bit of flexibility in their schedule or, feel like you can fit it in otherwise. But as y'all know, I definitely could not keep up with the writing target. I'm just very proud of myself for keeping up with the lessons and the readings. That was very excellent for me. I feel like I got a ton out of the class doing that, as well as all the live sessions and the author interviews. But it's something to keep in mind. If you're going to do this, plan ahead, clear your calendar, and tell everybody that you're busy. And lastly, kind of like I mentioned before, I think it would be excellent for writers who are looking to connect with other writers who have that similar commitment level to them. I know that the internet is huge and scary, and if you don't have in person writing connections, then trying to find them online can be so intimidating. It's like trying to find a little cozy corner in the ocean. I'm so glad that connecting with a cohort of writers was a part of the course. And I think if you participate, you will definitely be able to come away with connections that you can add to your writing network and maybe even a critique partner or two. Okay. Okay, that was a lot. Thank you so much for listening. You're dismissed. Thank you so much, everyone, for sticking with me to the end of this very, very long video. I cannot believe that we have come to the end of our adventure on the Reedsy writing course. Oh, when we started, it was July, and now we are here in beautiful, beautiful fall. So thank you so much to Reedsy for giving me the opportunity. I had an amazing time on the course. I learned a ton. I have taken so many lessons with me, and I really feel like my love for writing was just reinvigorated. Do not forget, if you are interested in taking the course, I have a discount code for you, which will be linked down below. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.